So I'll call the meeting to order again. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting, which was the retreat in early November? Part 1.
Move to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. And thank you, Shanika, for writing up the minutes. They are approved. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. We have established our record from the last meeting. I will turn this over to Kathleen.
All right.
With, again, thanks to you, Kathleen, for your time, your energy, your expertise that you're sharing with us. Again, much appreciated. And thank you, Alejandra, for all your contributions to tonight's meeting.
Yes. Yes. No, thank you, everyone. Okay.
Holmes just joined the call, just so you all know. So everyone's present who's in attendance. Alderman Nguyen is absent this evening.
Got it. Okay. Just as a point of process, in your email inboxes, there is a copy of this presentation. It's going to be important for you to be able to access some of the stuff that we're sharing so that you can workshop this in our small group breakouts. So anyhow, here we are. We're the EEC, part 2 of the retreat. We broke it out into 2 parts because that's the amount of time you guys had. My name is Kathleen, Dr. Kathleen Young-Clayton. You can call me Kathleen. Don't worry about it. It's after 5 o'clock now. So purposes and outcomes. So in part 2 of this retreat, we will finalize the mission statement for the EEC, which will form the basis of rewriting the EEC charter that we talked about in part 1 of our retreat that was a little bit miscalibrated, or just, I mean, things have evolved and changed. And so we kind of looked at that and said, okay, well, probably it would be a good idea. This is a good time to re-examine that. We will also examine what we're calling, or what I do a lot of acronyms in my life because I can't say all the words all the time. So BCC stands for Boards, Commissions, and Committees of Evanston. So we are just calling it the BCC project to see if it is a fit with the mission statement and brainstorm other projects if needed. Again, this work is iterative. We're using the BCC project just as a way to ground ourselves and to just sort of be concrete about what are some of the things that the EEC really does have purview over and have influence over. And so whether it's the BCC project in the future or not, that I don't have a dog in the fight on this one, so you guys can think of other things, but we're going to use that right now so we can really focus ourselves. I'm hoping in the 1.5 short hours that we have, I don't know if we're 2 or 1, outcomes, we'll have at least a working draft of the updated mission statement. I was hoping we could have the actual mission statement, but we need more time for that. We're going to review the BCC project and then identify some next steps and timeline for updating the EEC charter. Okay, we're going to try to get all that done in an 1.5 hours. So our agenda is we're doing check-ins right now. I'm going to go over the DARCI model that is in this presentation, but I also shared a PDF with you guys just in case you guys like reading and whatever. 6:45 to 7:15, we're going to review the BCC project first. So what I was thinking is that, I really want to just revisit it and have a conversation about project fit. If it fits in the mission that we're thinking about, great. If it does, then what projects might not fit in our mission? All right, just for us to test and to see if this is a good litmus test, like this project or the intention of the project. How do we use our mission statement to keep focused and hold each other accountable to outcomes? And then we'll spend another 30 minutes on the mission statement for the EEC, and then a short 15 minutes just doing some next steps and timelining for an applied project and updating the EEC charter. Pause there. I know it's a lot of words. I didn't have time to edit this, so you're just getting all of the words that Kathleen thinks about when she's coming up with agendas. Okay, what is DARCI? It's DARCI for equity. What it is. So essentially, it's a project management tool for establishing clear accountability in teams and organizations. I like this model a lot because it allows for horizontality, but it still imposes some level of accountability at the same time. So in this particular case, it was a great fit with you guys because you're not in an organization where there's like a chain of command and stuff like that. So what can it do for us, right? So it can, once we learn the acronym and the language, it can quickly clarify accountability for virtually any organizational activity. It can clarify specific roles for everyone involved in a project. It can create a shared language for assigning and tracking accountability. So I'm hoping down the road, one day when you guys are working on something awesome, you'll be like, okay, so who's going to be the R on this? If you say that, shoot me an email because I love hearing stuff like that. And then finally, it really does enhance organizational efficiency. You would be surprised and not alone if you have belonged to projects or an organization where there is no clear project management tool that everyone relies on. And ultimately, you can deepen trust by improving follow-through with this tool. Really, that is the outcome of the tool. The tool itself is just a tool. Okay. DARCI. The D stands for decision maker. One of the most unique aspects of this model is that it can be a group. It doesn't have to be one person. Whether it's a group or an individual, this model will work. So as the decider or delegator, they hold the ultimate power regarding the project. So power can be retained as the right of final approval veto, or it can be delegated to the A, which I'll get to in a second. D can be an individual leader, or it can be all of you, or the management team, or a board, or whatever like that. The real anchor to this is the A, which is what we call the accountable. The single person fully accountable for making the project happen. So for those of you who are science fiction fantasy nerds like me, there's a movie called The Highlander, and it was made like 1,000 years ago, and Sean Connery, yes, was in it. And basically, in the case of the Highlander, there can only be one Highlander. If you run into another Highlander, basically they fight it out and they have to behead each other, but there can be only one. This model is not that violent, but always remember that story. There can only be one A. The A must be given sufficient decision-making power and room to learn and adjust and commensurate with the accountability. So, you can't have somebody be an A and, they actually can't make decisions that help all of the R's, which I'll get to in a second, do their work. Okay, so the A must be given sufficient decision-making power. It is also possible for a D to also be the A. And in smaller organizations and smaller groups, the A's and the D's are the same person. There can never be more than one A, right? This is an invitation to a lack of clear accountability. If no one is being willing to be the A, do not proceed with the project. That's my advice to you. Just then go rehash the project, go figure out what's going wrong. There has to be one A. So who are these R's? They are the ones who are responsible for doing the work on the project. There may be numerous R's on a project. And examples of R's are like create training curriculum, research models of collaboration, call legislators, reserve meeting space and calendar meetings. That can all be different R's. I'll explain a little bit about the relationship between the R's and the A. So R's are responsible for dealing with the roadblocks, raising questions, not just being good soldiers, but bringing back information to the A. This may sound like an invitation for an A to just be a delegator, but that's not what we call the A. If you want to think about it, the person who is the A should take on the role if they enjoy helping other people be successful. If you don't like throwing your weight in or pitching in or taking on a little more responsibility every once in a while, or getting into the trenches and working with somebody who's dealing with a roadblock, don't be an A. An A is not a delegator. There are times where you're going to have to delegate work because you're only one person and you only have one head. But the A is really there as the backstop. So you can be working with a bunch of people who are responsible for different elements, and you as the A, it really is your role to help them be successful, because self-interest, then you will be successful. The last two letters are important. There are going to be people who are Cs, consulted, okay? People from whom input will be solicited and is important. Think about this as strategic allies, people who you know should be kept in the loop and actively engaged, but they're not going to be an R on something. They might end up being an R. And then when you realize, oh, that person I just consulted with actually should be the one to, let's say, call these three legislators, then you go back to your DARCI and you're like, actually, in fact, person X is now an R on this, right? And now you know they've shifted. While they're giving input, the best Cs are those who don't need or want additional work. They're there to just give you experience. Like, you're not using Cs to recruit people. You're literally using them to get the information that you need so that your Rs are feeling successful, roadblocks are removed, or whatever it is. And so again, you know, this is a fluid model, but the initial DARCI that you produce for a project, some Cs can shift to become Rs or even join the decision-making team. Finally, those who are informed. This can be the general public. This can be other members of BCCs. It can be the staff of the city, right? Those to be kept apprised of relevant developments. Sometimes this is just an agency-wide announcement. Sometimes it's just other teams working on related issues. And this is about strategic communications, right? The last thing that you want to forget is that there is a larger public out there, and it's better for them to be informed and to be updated rather than them showing up and being angry that they didn't know something was happening. You know what I mean? So I's really should not use the information to undermine the process. So unless somebody is officially an I, consider not CCing them on all emails. This is just my note to you. Okay, so I understand that this is a public commission, you know, all the Open Meetings Act stuff like works and all that stuff. So you guys probably won't have this issue, but really, I mean, for those of you who are part of the I's who want to be informed, the information is really there to incorporate, to include, but it's really not helpful then to like take a piece of information to go run over someplace else. It's like, keep the information with the team that's working on the issue. I'm going to stop there. Are there any questions? I'm kind of running through this a little fast, but I'm trying to, right? And you're going to apply the DARCI at least a little bit so that, you know, you can kind of get a feel for it. Again, this retreat was very short and it's online. So we usually slow this down a lot more when I'm doing the full training. Okay, so like I said, there is this planning exercise. I want to revisit a little bit around the BCC project so we can talk in context about what an example of program development, timelines, and we're gonna meet DARCI again. Okay, so I'm gonna talk this through and I'm gonna put you into small group breakouts. We're going to do a large group report back just so we can remind ourselves of the work that we actually did. I don't know, it feels like it was 2 months ago, but it was probably like 2 days ago or a week ago or something like that. So the ECEC, while external to internal government operations, really has a strategic role to play. And we have to be explicit about race and who benefits and who loses out, because it helps us keep focused on the structures that marginalize and solutions that build structural inclusion. So remember, we're trying to get away from these individual anecdotal, well, this person did this, or I felt this way, or whatever. We're trying to take it to the institutional level because we're a group and we're a commission and you have a public role to play. And this is possible for us to think structurally, not just on an individual level. And always just remind yourself to think in logical connections. A lot of times people tend to fall into the trap of talking about racial equity or race, and they forget to finish the sentence. So we connect racial equity, we're connecting racial equity to the EEC, not only to talk about race. We can connect racial equity to the dozens of boards, commissions, and committees of Evanston. And we have to remind ourselves that there are already structures that marginalize. and the way these BCCs have evolved over the years, or the initial intention of what they were supposed to do, or who ends up just by default showing up, are part of the structures that existed in the past that already were infused with a certain level of assumptions about who had access, who has resources, all of these things, and that the outcome we all acknowledge is that there are important communities that are marginalized, that don't feel like they are welcome, don't even know that these committees exist. And we have to start building the case, right? Like, this isn't going to just be immediately everyone's like, oh yeah, I get that. We have to build the case that structures of inclusion are necessary to move Evanston forward in a meaningful and effective way. All right. Is that, I'm not saying anything new. I can't see any of your faces either. So, because I'm presenting and I have to minimize the screen so I can see all the words. So feel free to unmute. If you're part of the commission, I don't know how public comments go, but whatever, right? Like you guys tell me. So here's where the exercise will start, right? What are we trying to accomplish? So we talked a bit in the last retreat about what would it look like to actually train current board and commission members on how racial equity should factor into their decision making and discussions around all the various issue areas, right? Like, I think that we kind of landed in a space where we looked at all these boards and commissions. It's like, how it's not possible for the EEC to take on every single project that touches on racial equity, from the library board to the police pension board to the environment board, right? So we thought of a way, like, how do we build the capacity? How do we create a shared framework and vocabulary, and then share it out and offer training? We also talked about training future board and commission members on the role of these BCCs and racial equity. Okay, so we're trying to accomplish some of this stuff. But again, let's finish the sentence, right? So the way I want you guys to always think about it as you're talking about stuff, it's like, yes, we need to increase diversity. Always in the back of your mind, like, have like a little like image of Dr. Kathleen pop up and say, so that what, right? So I this is the sentence that I came up with. We're doing all of this so that, right, racial equity concepts and approaches are spread across all BCC work areas, so that new projects and programs are informed and improved by racial equity approaches. Is there cries of outrage? Is that, or like, okay, that makes sense? Or I'm going to look at some faces. So, right? Like, we're doing all this training or talking about training or looking at these because we want that sentence to be true, right? So that whether it's new or an ongoing project or whatever, right? Projects and programs are informed and improved by racial equity approaches. And what you guys are proposing to do is to really like train the trainer, right? You guys can't be at all 29, 32 of these BCCs, right? So you're trying to build the team that really can take this and move it forward. So one of the things that I want to take a pause on right now and just break you guys out into, it's late, I'm tired too, like, get you guys to smaller groups. And I just forgot your name, Kimberly. Kimberly, like, if you wanted to split everyone, I don't know how many there are. So like 2 groups or potentially 3 groups, right?
How many people do you want in a group? I have them set up already in 2.
4 is fine. 4 or 5 or 3 or 4.
Okay, we're ready to go then.
All right. So here's the breakout exercise that I want you guys to just kind of work out as fast as you can. Again, my apologies. This is the time that we had. So let's think about this project. So how would you organize outreach and engagement with other BCCs? Like, get a little bit in the weeds. You don't have to like take out a calendar just yet, but you want to think about, okay, like, how do we actually start doing outreach? What kinds of training assets do we need to create? Do we take something off the shelf? Is there something that Kathleen can share? Probably not, but you're going to have to probably customize something. How do you engage with, so, BIPOC, BIPOC is the acronym for Black, Indigenous, People of Color, and other communities such as veterans, disabled, just those who are not showing up on these BCCs. How do you engage with them who usually do not have the access or resources to participate? And what would be some key roles? Use the DARCI model, right? You guys are going to break out into groups, so there's not one right answer. It's going to be interesting hearing the large group report backs, right? So think about who's the decision maker here. Is it one person? Is it all of you? Who would be the A? What would they do? And what would be some of the discrete responsibilities? And if you have time, which I'd be impressed if you do, but what would be a timeline? Treat it like a pilot project. This is one of the ways I lower anxiety and the tendencies of perfectionism in some of us. You don't have to get it perfect right out of the gate. Okay. Think about it as an iteration, but what are some of the, how long would you want to take, right? What would you want to see at the end of 6 months, 8 months, 12 months, 18? I don't know. It's up to you. Okay. So these are the questions that I'd like you to kind of grapple with and have conversations around. And then finally, if you can get to this, and again, this is why we really needed some prep work and more time, but how would you measure success? If you can't get to all questions, answer a few of them, right? This is not an exam. I'm not grading you. I want you guys to get together and think. Okay, so let's break out. I'm going to stop sharing. You should all have these slides so you can refer to the questions and all the material. And we'll do 15 minutes. Starting whenever.
Okay, so so I just want to make sure, does, I would say Alejandra and Jane, do you both have access to the slides?
Yes, I do.
All right, great, because you two are the leaders of your groups. So I will break them out now. And if you need anything, please let me know.
All right, 15 minutes, guys.
Alejandra, I can't hear you speak.
What slide has the instructions?
I will send it to you, Alejandra.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah. Let's see. So where are we at in terms of timestamp?
Is it slide 15?
It's slide, yeah. Hold on a second. Yeah, it's slide 15.
Okay, thank you.
So those who are here, who are the public, they are going to do their exercise and they'll be back. I do have a question. Do any of you have public comment to make?
Oh,
Okay, thank you. Okay,
all right. So it looks like they got into the room at 6:56-ish.
Yeah, I have the clock on for 15 minutes. I'm looking at the clock. The clock is counting down.
Okay, so we're running about 5 minutes behind. I know we have a little bit of wiggle room, so I'm not too worried about it, but I would like to give the full 15 minutes for the large group report backs because it's really important for them to hear how each group was processing the answers.
Well, don't rush it. I would tell you not to rush. So if you need the extra 5 minutes, take the minutes. Our committee meetings usually last a couple hours anyway. Like our meetings don't have a set end time. So I appreciate the 8 o'clock.
I was hopeful that we could do this. I don't know. I got about 18% gas in the tank here, Kimberly Richardson. So I'm
gonna... let me go ahead and.
Oh, it's different than so many meetings. Fill the time allotted. When you're on a countdown, boy.
Okay, guys.
So she's got a.
I've got the thing open, and I'm gonna take notes because that's
rock.
what you do.
Thanks,
so
Kathleen.
Yeah. Well, okay, my note taking is a little. I'm tired too, but well, you guys just correct me if I miss something, okay? So
Mhm.
let's go with, I just group A and group B, and my apologies. I'm so tired. I'm just shorthanding everything. So it's not to dismiss your individuality or whatever. I just didn't want to write everything out right now. So why don't we start with Jane's group?
Okay, I knew you were going to say it. So Carla, Max, and Dolores are brilliant, first of all. Can you write that down?
Yes. Wait, who is it?
Carla with a K.
Sorry, Carla.
Carla,
Max,
Max, and Dolores.
and Dolores.
Mhm.
Sorry. Again, everyone has to give me it is very late and I've been doing this all day. So, all right. They
Yes.
are brilliant.
So,
Lots of grace going around.
thank you. So what we came up with was really more action steps, a plan for how to make this happen. And the plan starts with getting on the agenda of our priority BCCs. Going back to our previous meeting, the ones that control money, that control decisions, policies, and so forth. Getting on their agendas and bringing to this presentation on each of their agendas, somebody from the Equity Empowerment Commission with a standard slide deck, let's say. And standard slide deck for both our visual learners, our audio learners, something to show and talk about. And we would be then asking them, and it wouldn't be about Equity and Empowerment Commission, it would be about whatever this BCC is and their work. That's my add to this. And we would ask them, we would like to know from you these things, or have you discussed these things? Do you, as a BCC, have a working definition of equity? How have you incorporated equity into your agenda, your work plan, what your commission committee does? Have you done an audit of your mission statement or your charter or your bylaws for explicit inclusion of equity? And would you consider, please, appointing or finding, naming an equity liaison for your BCC who would then commit to participating in meaningful equity training? Using then the local community assets for training. We acknowledge that we are not qualified to do that training ourselves, but rather we would farm it out to those better qualified, which could include, for example, the YWCA. And then we would also be looking for there to be a tool that all of our BCCs could use that would be a tool to assess racial equity. And in
Could
asking,
you repeat? Wait, hold on. Could you repeat
Yeah.
that one more time? I
I may have to
YWCA.
defer to Max on this one. It was, Max, correct me if I'm wrong, this would be a tool that that would be applicable to all of our BCCs that would essentially be an equity lens or a tool for assessing their incorporation of equity, an equity lens.
Right, like a tool, like if a proposal comes up,
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it used even all the way down to communication that's going out.
Mhm.
Making sure there's a common tool amongst the different committees so that they have a similar, it's also a way to norm what we mean when we talk about equity
Mhm.
and ensure that we're considering multiple viewpoints, perspectives and backgrounds. But that each committee would share the same tool to unify things.
Mhm. So kind of a common vision, common tool. So we did not get anywhere close to DARCI or a timeline for any of this.
Okay.
And again, the key part was getting on the agendas of these committees. I'll editorialize here. It's not so much about confronting our BCCs with equity, but rather asking them the question, are you thinking about it? And we hope providing resources to them as well.
This has been training. Well, I mean, and I can see that, your DARCI or timeline was still TBD, but I mean, you could even see based on the bullets that we captured here, you know, it's going to take time to go talk with YWCA and see what they actually can do. It's going to take time to get on the boards and commissions. Like it's going to take time to come up with the slide deck. It's, you know, so I mean, this is a great start. Like, even though you didn't get to the timelining or the DARCI, you could see how that would be the next steps to really map out what something would look
Yeah.
like.
I kind of think the easy part's going to be getting on the agenda, but we'd have to be prepared to be on the
Yeah.
agenda.
Yep. Yeah.
And in my experience, that there are so many boards, commissions, and committees that are looking for interesting content and meeting agenda items.
Okay.
And who's
is
going to
there-
say no anyway? I mean, really.
Well, be surprised, but yeah, I mean, let's hope that there are no no's. Carla, Max, and Dolores, like, is there anything else? Like, is this good? Can we move to Group B? I don't want to. We're good? Okay.
Jane was an excellent scribe. It's all
And thanks for adding racial in front of equity every time I said it.
That's okay. So it's instinct now.
Mm.
All right, Alejandra, go for it.
Sure. For the outreach, there were some caveats I think that I just wanted to share. We kind of had to reiterate to ourselves that we need to own our own leadership, and that to the point about reaching out, like, you know, yeah, maybe we need the mayor to say, do as they say, but that we really need to own our leadership as a commission, and to reach out to the prioritized BCCs that we feel, you know, have power. And if we need to ID members of those BCCs to make sure we get on their agendas. I think at first we were thinking this would be more individualistic and we'd interview individuals, because that's what we talked about in the first part of our retreat. But I'll just say that I love this concept about getting on their agenda and going to their meetings. But we definitely want to lift up any relationships that we have, right? To making sure we get on their agenda and that we talk to them. I think that's it in regards to outreach wise. We did talk about, you know, time. We did think about maybe having like a culminating meeting with the commissions, like reaching out to them, maybe providing the training, but we were envisioning maybe like a culminating event. Hopefully by next spring, we actually can meet face to face, but it would be nice to have a culminating effect with all BCCs. In regards to training assets, we shared with Kimberly that we've done a lot of work already. We actually have shared definitions. We spent many, many months coming up with shared definitions, so there's no need to reiterate or start from scratch. We also shared that we had worked with Kimberly and we're somewhat familiar, at least I've seen the questions of the REIA, the Racial Equity Impact Assessment. We're like, what's that I for? But that Kimberly has shared with us the Racial Equity Impact Assessment that she's been using as part of her own pilot project. And so again, just lifting up some of the work, which makes some of us, me in particular, feel like all this work was worth something. So we've got a lot of definitions and trainings that we can work off of. And those were some of the assets we lifted up. We kind of skipped ahead to think about what success looks like. And we were thinking like maybe a report card or an index of sorts, so that there would be some level of accountability, maybe even public sharing about how each of our commissions has reached certain goals of using an REIA. So that's what we came up with.
Nice. The work. Did I capture that? Okay, so Alejandra, who was in your team?
So Kathy Lyons. Yep, and then Kimberly.
Okay.
Just the three of us.
Cool. Small but mighty.
Kimberly with a
And-
Y.
I'm sorry,
Kimberly with a
He's-
Y, K-Y-M.
thank you. BERL,
Why again?
is that right? Okay, sorry, I can't see you. Wait, it's KYMBERLY? Got it. Okay, thank you. Any other inputs? Did I capture that pretty, like, as well as, yeah?
Yeah, what did I not include?
Well, I mean, so both, I mean, and it's understandable, but the DARCI, you know, I'm tired when I can't spell that, and timeline. But again, even with something like this, right, you can imagine a whole DARCI around, okay, so who out of the EEC is going to actually go dig back through all the great work that you guys already did? You know, and some of you probably are trained in training, right, and doing this. So who's going to pull that slide deck together? You know, I would strongly recommend that you guys spend a meeting sort of practicing and training yourselves to kind of walk through all of that, so that, you know, you're feeling really confident and like, you know, you're ready for some of the questions that might come at you. And definitely, you know, I think it can be a both and, like, you can just reach out directly to some of the BCCs and ask to get put on their agenda. I would recommend that you possibly start a little bit with the one-on-one outreach to people that you know, or that maybe Kimberly Richardson might be able to point you to inform the way you're going to create the presentation, the slide deck, and the questions, right? That's always a good heads up. Like, you know, you don't necessarily want to like go right out of the gate, like having trusted people who can give you feedback and sort of give you a heads up, like, oh, no, this committee is like this. They're going to really want to hear about why, or what are you talking about, or how does this fit? So, you know, it's good to have an interview structure built in. I'm going to pause there. Any thoughts or?
Kathleen, question for you, because you had sent out that, like the sample questionnaire of, and building on that idea of reaching out, if you have a personal relationship, if we can identify as a commission that we actually know, you know, somebody, everybody or somebody on the committee knows somebody on most of the boards and commissions that we're prioritizing, and would be willing to have a, you know, a one-on-one conversation. One of the things I'm wondering is that we don't know what we don't know. So there could be boards and commissions that are already doing something, right? And maybe Kimberly Richardson knows that they're not, but I don't think it's safe to assume, you know, in Evanston that we're the only ones thinking about equity. And like the homelessness commission may already have the GARE tool or the Casey tool or whatever, or they're always, or they're, you know, they're so diverse and they're so rich in the commission that they're, you know, thinking about it all the time. So I guess one of the things I'd want to do is see what's out there first, before kind of coming in with our stuff, because unless Kimberly Richardson, you know that it's not happening, or we can safely, or somebody else knows, we can safely say we're the lead on this. You know, maybe we're actually not the lead and somebody else is doing this work, which would be awesome, right? If somebody was.
I think that just supports Kathleen's point of doing some of the surveys in it, you know, before we go and like present to them. So we get a sense of where they're at. But I also don't want us to confuse any group having diverse members and a group being committed to equity, because that's not, brown people did not equal equity.
Word. Yes.
Understood.
Well,
Yep.
So
Totally.
to get to your question, Kathy, I can only think of two committees that are actively engaged with racial equity. That would be the library board, because they have been doing this work for many years now through their staff. I don't know how well, I can't speak to because I'm not following that closely. And the Arts Council. And the only reason why I know the Arts Council is because I've been working with them one-on-one with their redesigning and implementation. Other than that, because we haven't had a lot of internal work with staff, there's not going to see that correlation externally with boards and commissions. I think there's some work beginning to happen with the mental health board, with the staff is doing that work, not the board itself. So I would say that majority of our boards and commissions are still on the diversity and inclusion aspect of the conversation and not the equity, racial equity. And that's where, from my standpoint, we're at.
And, you know, just to answer your question, Kathy, so I do think it's a good idea, and it's just a smart optics move to sort of do a survey, right? To sort of give people the opportunity to say what they're doing, even though it might not match up with the definition, the working definition you guys have, or what we understand what racial equity work really entails. So at least you're hearing what people think that means, and that will arm you. The other piece, which is the structural piece, is even if the Arts Council is doing the racial equity work, which is great, or the library board, it's not in their mission to go reach out to the other 25 boards and commissions and be like, hey, right, like we're doing it this way, and it'd be really helpful because we're all connected, right? Like libraries, and we're dealing with racial equity and access issues, and you know, housing is a big issue, or you know, after school programming, and like all that stuff has to come together, right? So they're probably going to be happy that more boards and commissions are tackling it through a racial equity lens, so they're not the only ones that have to always compensate for all of the things that may be a big blind spot in certain groups' assessment of what they should be doing. So that is like truly like the leveraging that structural role that you guys and the authority you guys have as a peer, right? So that's a great question. Well, look, so here's the thing. So I wrote this down because I do think that a bit of an application of the DARCI and timeline, like once we get past just the discussion around the vision and mission, won't hurt. I promise this time around, if I send out something, I'll put time sensitive or something in the subject line so people know, because I guess that was a little too subtle for everyone. But as you can tell, like, again, I was trying to adapt this for a very short period of time, but the next steps really would be thinking about, you know, what are these next steps, you know, around outreach, and, you know, who's going to create the survey? Do we need help doing that? I mean, you know, the point was raised earlier that the YWC of Evanston has been doing this work, and they would probably be very happy to partner or something. I don't know what, like, but that's all, like, you need to DARCI that out. You see what I'm saying? Like somebody needs to be an R on then reaching out to YWCA and having that conversation, right? The A of that piece of work needs to be held accountable that you're meeting deadlines so that you can execute something by mid-year next year. That'd be great. It would be wonderful to do, you know, after you've done all the legwork, a big public meeting or something that really launches something, a collaborative with other BCCs, but you know, you got to work backwards from that and see if, you know, what bandwidth everyone has. With that said, I want to just touch a little bit on the vision and mission. Kimberly raised the fact that she's like, it's late, so I don't know how much more brain power people are going to have. So let me just share with you what I proposed, and maybe we all agree that, okay, yeah, we have energy, break us out into rooms, or oh, hell no, please don't make me do that, but I'll do it for homework. Okay, so let's just go through it. And really, the reason why I put the BCC project is just to get our brains flowing, right? Just what is an actual project that contains those really good elements of having structural, sort of leveraging your structural value, your authority, really not dropping into like individual projects that's going to burn up a lot of your time or eat up a lot of your energy, but really helping you think about like those institutional changes that can be made. So, you know, we talked a bit about this. What can our commission do about structural marginalization? We talked about networks with other commissioners who are open to incorporating this racial equity focus in their specific focus areas. Training and engagement. pilot projects. So, one of the things that I will predict is if you guys are very successful in just this first project, which is to seed racial equity and to start connecting these commissions together around that wonderful outcome, you're gonna get sucked into stuff, right? People are gonna start throwing things at you, or they're gonna be like, oh no, we need your help with this. And so, part of what maybe year 2 and what I'm saying why you need like a 3-year plan is there might be a couple of projects that you guys decide as a D, yeah, we should really work on this. And first we're going to figure out the DARCI and the reality check around the timeline and all that stuff, but we want to try to do this, right? So that still means that we need a mission statement because there's going to be a lot of stuff thrown at you. Okay, so this is what we pulled this from the charter, and I'm just calling it the vision. It's actually a terrible vision statement, so never have the vision statement like this because it's about 90 words too long. But I just wanted us to read this because this is what currently exists in that charter. And when I read it, I was like, I don't know what that means. So the city of Evanston is committed to becoming the most livable city in America. That is the vision statement for the city. To achieve this goal, we are working to identify and eliminate all barriers that limit or prevent residents' full access to programs, processes, and facilities, regardless of all the stuff. Okay, so you're supposed to be working to identify and eliminate all barriers, all of them, that limit or prevent residents' full access to everything, right? This is a vision. A diverse community is one where all people feel welcome and are empowered to participate in the shaping of their community. Only then can our community be called the most livable city in America. Okay, to achieve better outcomes and sustainable change for our community, we are working to leverage our diversity and actively practice inclusion. Okay. You can see you can break out each of these sentences and really just use it as a touchstone to interrogate, like, what the hell did that just mean? When historically underrepresented groups are part of the decision-making process, the outcomes are smarter and far more sustainable. So, right? I mean, there's a lot in there.
Couple thoughts, Kathleen. The second
Yes.
paragraph is really mostly about public engagement and empowerment. And the doesn't seem to have a lot to do with equity.
Right.
Maybe tangentially. And the first is so general. I don't know what to do with it.
I mean, even like, I'm just going to point to this little clause that I kind of tripped over. Like, we are working to leverage our diversity and actively practice inclusion. I just kept on asking how, like, and how there is an answer. And actually, when I started thinking over and over again, I'm like, I really think this is the case. I don't know, for those of you who remember having to write papers for grad school or undergrad or in high school or whatever, right? Especially when you're writing a paper for like a sociology class, there's always the thesis paragraph, right? You're supposed to have something that like actually explains what you're writing the paper about. The number of times where I've had students like almost crying or saying, I wrote the thesis paragraph, but the stuff that I found and what I discovered in my research and what I'm writing up isn't fitting that thesis paragraph. And I just kind of like, I'm just like, change the paragraph. Right? Just change the paragraph. Like, it's okay. It's all right.
I find myself wondering, there's a human being who wrote this, and who knows if, where it came from. Did they pull it from some other municipal website, thought this sounds like pretty good basic language, we'll put this into the enabling ordinance. And they might be surprised to know that we're looking to parse some of this
Sure.
to divine if it's relevant to us. And I think to your point, maybe this is not our thesis statement here.
Right, and you've gone through, you know, what, 3 years of researching
Almost.
and experiencing and whatever. So, you know, my recommendation is change the thesis paragraph to fit what it is that you've learned, what the analysis is really leading you to, so that it's reflecting better what you have actually discovered in that time. Can I move forward?
One question.
I can't see you guys, so I don't know if. So breaking down the vision statement, right? So remember, our mission should focus on what the EEC has the most reasonable control and influence over, right? So when you have a vision statement that's like, you're going to eliminate all the barriers in all of the things, that's already kind of setting up expectations that I'm like, oh, I would never know. That's a lot, right? Keeping in mind that capacity and time constraints of members. And so we were breaking it down, and really I'm just trying to get you guys to think about a 3-year time frame, because who knows, right? I mean, we didn't know COVID was going to happen this year. So, you know, the exercise would have been refer to the vision language shared in the previous slide and identify some sentences where the only way I could think of, like, more specific mechanisms of implementation, of implementing racial equity can happen. So use the exercise we just went through with the BCC review project as an example, right? So as we started drilling in, and, you know, you guys really started thinking, okay, well, you know, how do we reach out to this, or should we make these assumptions? That's the kind of rolling up your sleeves that should inform what a mission statement can look like. So going from vision to mission, what I would recommend, and I think we have the time, I don't know, Kim, I mean, it's 7:40. I know I didn't realize this went to 8:30, but I mean, here's what we're going to do. We're going to break out into small groups and do some wordsmithing. I know that's never fun at 7:40 at night. Okay, but maybe this is something that we can assign for homework. Okay, but basically, your mission statement really needs to drive the work of the EEC. It's what you do at the core of the work, and and from it come the objectives, and finally what it takes to reach those objectives, right? So that's not all in the mission statement, but you have the right mission statement. It's gonna just capture what it is you guys are trying to do, and the spirit in which you're doing it, the culture. So E specific, right? So think about a 3-year, oh, sorry. All right, so here, the second one, right? I just repeated. So remember, our mission is focusing on what we have reasonable control and influence over, right? Because the mission statement's also, like, people are going to want to know, like, why are you talking to me? Like, I'm on the library board. Why are you reaching out to me? Mission statement, right? This is our role. We're actually doing this type of knitting, strengthening, training, seeding, I don't know, whatever the action verb is, right? To really infuse racial equity frameworks and language and vocabulary across all of the boards and commissions, for example. So the EEC's 3-year mission is to ... I know this is the hardest part. Everything I've seen, it's like, try to keep it at 20 words or less. So the wordsmithing is, the first version is going to probably be 50 words. And then you have to keep on scrubbing. So use the list of specific actions and impacts you all identified to create the mission statement. We're going to do a small group breakout, but it is 7:40.
So
Yeah.
Kathleen, I think, to be fair to the group, what I think I would like to get their feedback. Would they like some time to sit and look at this language a little bit more and kind of work through themselves, and then come back at the next meeting to do breakout groups? Or do you all want to go ahead and do the breakout groups tonight, being that it's 7:42? So I just want to give you that option, and then you all can decide.
I wouldn't mind doing it because I gave up doing something else to be here. So I'd rather use my 30 to 40 minutes to get whatever juices are left in my brain, but that's me.
And again, just like our first breakout, there's no right answer. This is really about you guys connecting and communicating and thinking through what the first steps or what should be in there, right? So I'm not expecting perfection, right? It's really like using these prompts to start thinking about what should our mission be, right? So, I mean, if you guys are, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere. Like you, Alejandra, I mean, I probably would have been watching 30 Rock reruns with my daughter, so it's really okay. But I mean, it's still fun. I'm foregoing that, but why don't we break out? Oops, and then that's really, and I'll set it up so I can take notes. But you guys have these slides, right? And really let me just highlight this. So it's really to use this structure. And again, if you guys can't get it to 20, don't worry about the word limit. That's the ideal, okay? What we're saying is that, try to think through and start with just start with this section, right? Slide 19 has some of the things that we've been talking about. Slide 20 has the current language that you probably will be like, wait, what? I mean, there's some things in here that I think you should keep, right? But it's a lot.
So,
And then, yeah.
I was thinking, could we use the time and breakout rooms, maybe not to write our 20-word statement, if it actually strings together in a few sentences, great, but maybe just kind of identify what would be the essential nuggets for us of a mission statement.
Perfect.
And I for wordsmithing, I'm sorry, I'm going to be better at 9 a.m. for wordsmithing than close to 9 p.m. But maybe we could just identify those things that we think would be our top priorities to be included in a mission statement. So whether it's phrases, whether it's and I think about the mission statement is how do we define what our lane is, and maybe there's a way to then just in our breakout rooms kind of distill it down to its essence.
Is that cool with, is that cool with everyone? I mean, we're at 7:45. Let's break out for just a short 15 minutes and get some of that stuff out, and I will set up the note taking. Kimberly, would you mind breaking everyone out into groups since you're the group master?
All right, here we go.
Gently booting you out. Right on. Okay. All righty, guys. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. And I still called you Group B, Alejandra, but you get to go first this time. Because that's how creative I am right now.
Woohoo! Well, I just want to say that we got to chit chat with Kimberly's baby. So I hope you all are jealous.
I am very jealous.
Super jelly.
There's no such thing as too many babies in a Zoom meeting.
Right. That's right. So I feel like we got a lot done. We wanted to differentiate the vision and mission because we felt like in our vision, we really wanted to talk about the championing, like we want to really champion the dismantlement of structural racism, but that's the big vision, right? And so we wanted to at least create some language in our vision that is broad, big picture, but that also calls out structural racism. I think some folks may be in denial that it actually exists in Evanston. So we just wanted to say that out loud. And then for our 3-year mission, we wanted to be very specific. And so we talked about the development and facilitation of shared language on racial equity across BCCs. We will develop and facilitate the use of a shared REIA across BCCs. And we wanted to develop maybe like a biannual or every 5-year kind of REIA, like index or report card that possibly BCCs would be, evaluated on. But those are the 3 things that we came up with.
be evaluated on. Okay,
Okay, you are all firing on all cylinders.
clearly. All right, hang on. Let me just.
Ours is prettier though.
What do you mean?
Max has a toy.
Okay.
A perk of my day job, but everyone can have it. You too can have a Jamboard.
Wait, now I
I
gotta
thought he
look
has
at
a-
this.
I thought he has a mission statement toy and I thought, well, that's pretty handy, boy.
Oh,
In-
so,
Wow.
Input, output.
which means I'm going to defer to Max here.
All right.
Can you, maybe Kathleen, if you click on the one, because your screen is being shared, if you click on the one in the chat, I think Kimberly just put it in there,
Oh, okay. Hang
or
on.
I can share.
Is it Jamboard?
Yeah.
What?
Oh, this is so cool. This is like Mural. Have you used Mural before?
I've seen it. Yeah, it's similar.
Or
Yes.
Miro.
Can you
Mhm.
guys see this? Am I sharing the right screen? Yeah.
We can't see your screen yet.
Oh,
Max,
okay.
maybe,
Hang on.
I
I can do this. I just realized I'm just sharing. Right.
voila.
Nice.
So I can start, but anyone jump in. We kind of started, well, we wanted to put racial equity in the center. It was more just riffing, trying to capture key things we want in the mission statement. Some verbs, active action verbs, advance, empower, direct. The outstanding questions of with whom, who's the audience, and for whom. And then maybe Carla, do you want to talk about the how?
Sure. I'm zooming in here because I can't see. So we talked there need to be some piece about bringing the interests and the priorities of the community to guide our work. So we're not deciding what's a priority. Taking an asset-based view of racial identities, so instead of focusing on what's wrong and what's broken, but like what's working and how can we improve what's working and what is being done. I don't have the priorities yet. I mean, that's still be decided, but somewhere in there it should say with an emphasis on housing, city employment, meaning employment within the city, or creating more. I don't know what lanes we want to focus on equity within, but we should outline that as opposed to boiling the equity ocean. Having a space for items that seem important, but they aren't within current parameters. So I don't think a space, I don't know if we talk about space, but we should have some, I think this was a side note, that we should create some sort of tool that would help us decide whether something comes onto our docket and is something we work on based on what we have decided our mission and our focus should be on. And then evaluating all our decisions based on some sort of relative, equity-based tool. So that's it.
So Carla, can I ask you just a clarifying question? How it, or does the BCC project fit in, like when you were talking about employment in the city and stuff, is there a connection in your mind of how some of the stuff fits together, or is this a completely separate thing, or?
I was under the impression this is a mission statement for the entire group, not a mission statement for that project. Am I wrong?
No, you're not wrong.
Yeah.
But did that project inform some of the thinking around, like, so what is the connection then? Like when you talk about employment in the city, right? Because we started going, the way I started us off was like getting into details, like just kind of getting into those mechanisms of how would we create that change? How do we influence those structural processes? So is there something that you're thinking about that's like a similar version for employment stuff, or I'm just trying to get a little more flavor so I can understand.
If equity is important to the city when they employ new, when they bring on new employees, then there should be some sort of equity pass in there somehow. So right now there's no lens for equity as we do on employment. So if part of our job, if we decide we're going to focus on the employment at the city, how are we creating a system or a process or helping oversee or whatever the nice verbs we have over there? That if we decide that housing is one of our emphasis, how are we working to align, move forward, push, advance housing, zoning, whatever changes? Again, we're not making the final decisions, but how are we helping advance more affordable housing in?
Right. So would you be open to the connection that there is a housing commission? And that maybe working with that commission to strengthen their own advocacy around, or, and, you know, their understanding around racial equity? Is that something that?
Yeah, I think under the how, then maybe we can put sort of by partnering with.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Yeah, I don't know. Is there a commission that looks at employment in the city? I don't know. That's like a
What's
different.
the economic development one?
So there
great.
there is no board, commission, or committee that works with the city or guides the city on employment-related, human resources-related matters.
Yeah, that's not
kinda
going to be surprising to me, guys. I mean, you know, the problem with HR in this world is you've got multiple federal, whatever, consent decrees or whatever decrees.
It's
like, it's ugly.
It's also so highly regulated and so guided by all kinds of laws. So it would be hard to incorporate.
I was stand corrected. There is the civil servant now. There is the Civil Servant Commission, which I know it's not all employees, but that is a committee that does look at employment of certain sector of our city. I'm not sure.
That's just the police and firemen, right?
I was just say it's just the police and fire, but it is one board commission that does have that. But it's based off of federal guidelines. So
Right.
But internally, that's something that we should look at as an internal structure to create, because internally, policies and procedures when it comes to the human resource side of things, it's a sign off by the city manager. So I think that is something that should be internally reviewed as a policy process.
Once upon a time, there was a Human Relations Commission that did some of that, if you remember. Well, because you don't remember, you weren't here.
Well,
but at
that
one
commission,
time there was.
Yeah, but they didn't have anything to do with, they had to do with the EEOC, not with human resources.
Well, listen, so here's the thing. I mean, I'm curious because I'm just trying to test whether or not, you know, with you, Carla, like, does the engagement and the transformation of people's understandings on BCCs get you there? If you want to talk about employment process, if there's no board or commission that even touches on that, and then just understanding that there's a lot of federal and state regulations, how would we get there without this turning into like that big project that would suck up everyone's time to try to get there?
And note that the 1, 2, 3 is blank. I am not dictating.
Yeah.
At some point in time, we have to decide. I was just giving out examples, so like let's not go down that rabbit hole. If that's not really on our list. I'm just saying we should state somewhere in there what our emphasis are, so we kind of have it's clear that we're not trying to fix all the world's equity.
I got you now. No, thanks for clarifying that. Here, let me share the final slide so we can wrap up a little bit. Oh, I shared the wrong slide, sorry. Okay, here's what I'm sharing, if I can. My motor functions are failing me now. So, excuse me, pardon me. So I know this was not enough time, but I really appreciate you guys spending the time, even just getting there. What I captured was, Alejandra, your group's stuff, and then I just cut and pasted this into the second slide so we have it. So let's just talk a little bit about next steps and action items. I think that we did learn about the DARCI. We weren't successful in applying DARCI, but hopefully that's something that, you know, we can resurrect like later on in a future session. We did map out what a BCC project would kind of look like in detail, and we began to refine the EEC's mission statement. Really, the two next steps that I could think about, and I mean, again, like there's, when Kimberly asked me to help with the facilitation, the structuring of your strategic retreat, she told me that there were 2 sessions, and I was happy to do this because I see this as both the inside environment game that, you know, I have to focus on in terms of government and public administration, but the external, strengthening external allies and what they're doing is very important as well to the success of the internal environment. So I committed to that, but we're going to have to talk a little bit about like just my lack of bandwidth to really engage in a lot of deep thinking about these next steps. But I think that at least the 2 that I could imagine is to finalize a full plan for this BCC project, including the DARCI and, you know, a timeline. Just for you guys to even to say, okay, does this have legs? Like, is this project robust enough to potentially one day get us to having some leverage around, you know, employment, retention, promotion, all that stuff like in the city, for example. That's what you want to go. And also revising that EEC charter, I do think that that would be a real concrete, like I wouldn't spend months and months on it, but especially if you're going to start doing this outreach or issue a survey and engage with people, you probably do want at least something revised so that they see that this is part of like what you guys are doing. Like this is a very clear activity and lane, to use your term, Jane. Like this is a clear lane. This is a lane that we're in. We're gonna get this done. So that's any thoughts or other next steps, or I can type it in here. This is yours, so you can take it with you, but you let me know. Other action items or next steps.
I'm always looking to try to figure out how this translates to an agenda, you know, a public agenda for our next meeting and what would be on that agenda. And perhaps at our next meeting in December, if we had an outline for what the plan would be for the BCC project, like a draft that we could respond to, which could be the DARCI, for what this looks like. And I think we've got enough information about how we would go at it. This particular project. It feels as if revising the charter and mission statement should be on our agenda for the next several meetings, but I'm right now at a loss to how we get that done without.
Well, so this is where the DARCI becomes handy, Jane. So there's 2 very concrete things that have to be prepped for the next agenda. I know we're all busy, but is there somebody who's willing to step up and be the A for one of these 2 things? Right. So for example, under revising the charter, you're going to need someone to actually draft new language. Ensure commission reads and provides feedback. Probably not a bad idea to include Kimberly Richardson in feedback loop. Okay, so that can be 3 separate people, right? If somebody loves drafting stuff, you should be the R on drafting new language. If somebody likes sort of herding cats, then you should ensure commission reads and provides feedback and looping in Kim. And then maybe Jane or Alejandra as co-chairs, like you guys should be the A's. That means if this doesn't happen, you are the accountable and you will then reach out and make sure it does happen. Right? But you need more help. Like you guys shouldn't have to do all of this, but what are the pieces that, you know, you would need somebody to step up and help you with?
I mean, we
Nancy?
have some of the language and the feedback from today, so I'd be happy to take I'm happy to do the draft, the new language, you know, and get that started. And I would do that within the next 3 weeks.
I'll herd all you cats.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay, Jane is R.
Mhm.
And Jane is R. So that means, I mean, basically, you know, Alejandra, you and Jane have to, who's the A? Who's going to be the A on this? Who will be responsible? All right, Jane. Jane is A. So Jane, what that basically means is Alejandra's just said, you know, and rightfully so, hey, I'm going to have this done in
3
3
weeks.
weeks. But that means you might need to loop in with Alejandra and be like, hey, I just heard from Kim that she's going on vacation. So actually she needs this like in 2.5 weeks. Can we do that? Right? Like you're the one that's going to have to bring it across the finish line and just loop in, make sure that, you know, Alejandra knows if there's like changes in timeline, make sure that everyone on the commission signs off or lays eyes on it. How about something like the draft outline for the BCC project? Does anyone have a burning desire? I love stuff like this. I don't have any time to do it, but I love drafting out new program ideas. But who's down for taking a crack at this? So here, let me just draft activities, deliverables, and DARCI timeline. It's probably the same person should do both. So this is a bit of a heavy lift, but is anyone interested in taking a crack at that? You don't have to do, like, it doesn't have to be like month by month, but
I don't mind. I could take a stab at it. I'm a little bit for both of these things. I'm a little bit intrigued by what Carla brought up with 1, 2, 3, with having 3, and I know that will be very, very hard to settle on those 1, 2, 3.
Mhm.
But I think both for the mission statement and for the project, it would help to have some parameters about how many, how much, which ones. I think what I've been learning through these retreats and through these meetings is when we say all of Evanston or all boards and commissions, or when we go off and select our own, I'm not sure we're going to get the data that will actually help us have an impact. I'm trying to think of it like SMART goals, right? Like
Yes.
when we actually have some parameters around what we're gathering, then
absolutely.
yeah.
Well, what is another component of this work? So what you're saying is, yeah, you can take a crack at drafting this, but what you're looking for is partnership, like somebody to bounce ideas off of, or
Yeah.
you know, to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can help with that.
Okay.
Thanks.
So we have to come up with an R title for you. So Max is going to draft it, but Kimberly, Kymberl.
Is Kimberly more a C?
You know,
Yeah.
Kimberly might be a C. You're right. You're going to be consulted, right? Max, are you okay with that? Because then
Sure,
that doesn't
absolutely.
mess up the drafting process, right?
Yeah, I was paying attention. This is-
You know, and again, like this can, and the D is all of you guys, right? Who's going to be the A? See, this is where like you.
Well, I think that's me again.
Okay, so Jane is the A on getting,
Mhm.
on supporting Max and Kim. Right?
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense, you know, and it's really just, you guys have, whenever your next meeting is, just work backwards from there. I would say, you know, give everyone at least like 3 or 4 days to lay eyes on the draft, and especially for revising anything, like you want to give them enough time to give you feedback so you can incorporate or raise it as questions at the next meeting. So,
Mhm. Great. Look for my emails tomorrow.
next meeting is December 17th.
It is.
So I know that you all have copies of this slide deck. You might not, you know, the best thing to do, guys, is when you want to change something, because I think I only have you as viewers, because I've done it before where everyone's had editing, and then I go to get my slide deck and everything's like all messed up. So what you can do is go to Google Sheet Slides and just go to File and make a copy. You make a copy and then you can edit to your heart's content. Okay. It's 8:24. I don't have any good ideas about a checkout thing. Thank you. Thank you for sticking with it.
So at our second day of the retreat, Biden is still the winner. Georgia confirmed during this meeting too. So last time was Pennsylvania. This time got notification that Georgia's recount went through. So
Thank you, Max.
something about being
Thanks,
together
Max.
makes it happen.
If we meet again, you think Bernie might win?
Maybe in Vermont. You never know.
You guys are amazing.
I'm thinking ahead to our January meeting. What are we going to know then?
But listen, guys, it's been a real pleasure working with you guys.
We meet on
Right.
the 21st of January.
Oh, wow.
Hopefully we'll
Just
still be a
saying.
democracy by then.
Really? Oh, Dolores.
Hopefully we will still be.
All right. Kimberly, is there anything else you want to share or whatnot? Are you good?
No, I think we're good. I'll hand over to Jane, and you want to
Yeah.
close out the meeting?
Is there a motion
Right.
to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn the meeting at 8:26 p.m.
Thank you, Kimberly with a Y. Is there a second?
I second that.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all
Okay.
so much.
Thank you.
Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Be safe, be
Thanks.
well,
Take
Be
it
well.
easy, everyone.
be well. Great.
Good night.
Have a
Bye.
good